Hello. I'm really glad to have the session after the after party in the morning. So I'm glad we're all fresh and ready to rock and roll. Today I'm going to tell you about the location and where the investments in location and location-based services and local commerce are being made. So, let's talk about why this is important. This is important because location is absolutely huge. In fact, by way of some macro numbers here, location is local commerce that's internet influenced is about half of all local commerce, about $4 trillion annually. And to put that in perspective, that's 10 times as big as e-commerce. And so location is huge from a macro perspective, and from a micro perspective, it's huge too. That means for what you do, it impacts the things you do every day, the doctors you pick for your family, the restaurants you go to, how you spend your leisure time. So location is like really important, and it's woven into the fabric of your life. And we're going to talk about the future of location. But first, let's go back in time. Let's go back in time. There have been 3 revolutionary breakthroughs that have transformed location services as we know it, local commerce and location-based services. And the first is the printing press. Now, when you think of printing press and you look at this, you think of Gutenberg and printing books. I actually want to draw a little bit of a different parallel. I think of printing press as, we think of printing press as having revolutionized local commerce in newspapers. And so with newspapers, we're able to deliver real-time information or fast information every day that's transient. And it you can mass-produce time-sensitive stuff like pricing, and so classifieds, you ended up with all this kind of stuff. And so here's the thing. That newspaper feed looks a lot like the feeds we see in social media streams today. They just printed once a day instead of in real time. It's kind of funny how that's evolved. And so that's the first breakthrough device, the sort of first breakthrough that revolutionized local commerce, because now you can print stuff every day. The second is the phone. In the late 19th century, the phone came out and became widespread popular in the 20th century, and this did something interesting. It allowed you to skip and hop degrees of social separation. So instead of me relying on word of mouth, I could now, if I wanted to find a dentist, I could now, instead of asking my friend about the dentist, I could call that dentist directly. I could skip this. And the third breakthrough that has had a massive impact on local commerce is the internet, which changed everything all over again. And so these things all have speed. They're all about speed. But every local service is composed of 5 layers. And the innovations that we're seeing today are all in one of those 5 areas. Every big bet, the big bets that we see every day are all happening in one of these 5 layers of local commerce. And we're going to go through and take a look at some of those breakthroughs that we see happening in location and location-based services today. The first layer is data. And so data or content. That is the name, the address, the phone number of a business, the information about the products and services inside of it, the content about those products and services, how much that stuff costs. That's the data. And so one of the huge innovations that we've seen recently in data is Facebook Graph Search. How many of you how many of you, just by way of poll, how many of you actually have Facebook Graph Search activated in Facebook? So they've turned it on now for about 1% of all of the people, all the users of Facebook. And it looks like pretty much half the people here raised their hands. So you guys are obviously requesting this. This is a different kind of audience. Graph Search is interesting because Facebook's got perfect information basically on people. And they're building up a data set of places and products and other kinds of things. And so as they do that, since they have all the information about people and now places and other stuff, they can answer queries directly. So they can say stuff like, give me a dentist that my friends like. And that's an innovation in data with this multidimensional search. That's a key innovation in data. How many of you guys use Waze or know what Waze is? It's another data breakthrough. So Waze, of course, collects data from its users with basically user-generated traffic data. And as people drive around using GPS, we know where people are, so Waze gets perfect data on the roads and how fast people are traversing those roads. Graph Search and Waze are both examples of innovations in the world of data and commerce. And that's the first layer of any location-based service that you use? Data. Data is the physical information that's returned to you by the second layer of local commerce, which is algorithm. Every local commerce experience you use today uses an algorithm. The algorithm goes through the data to decide what to show you. It decides what to show you based off the data that's in there. And we're seeing some neat things happen in algorithms. First is, well, actually, let's take a look at the passive algorithms. Who can tell me? I'll give $5. Actually, let's see what I have in my wallet. I will give 20 bucks. Oh, I don't have 20 bucks. Oh, I do. I'll give 20 bucks to somebody that tells me what the Yellow Pages algorithm is. First person. Yes, come here. Get your $20. Come on. Alphabetical. Yeah. So the answer is alphabets. The Yellow Pages are ordered A to Z. That's the stupidest algorithm I can. There you go. Where do you work? Where do you work? Oh, freelance? Okay. The Yellow Pages use an algorithm of the past. And companies today are innovating on algorithm. And they're doing stuff like context algorithms. So Nokia, for example, here's an example of an indoor map asking you for an umbrella if you want to shop for an umbrella because they know it's raining outside and you're near the mall. And you're inside, you're not outside, so maybe you could buy it. That's an example of an algorithm. An algorithm where they're using the data that they have, not just the data about the product, but the context around you to decide what to show you. And so that's kind of an innovation there. Google now is trying to guess what you want before you even ask for it. We'll see how that works out. And so these are algorithms that we see in local commerce. The third type of layer is interface, and the interface is what you see in results that the algorithms give you. And we've seen some really cool breakthroughs in interface lately. I don't think that that they've been fully realized yet. Like you're gonna as a user start to kind of experience those a little later on. But some of the stuff we're seeing right now, obviously Siri is a voice interface, so you can just talk. And then of course everyone knows Glass. So it's an augmented reality that's going to allow you to walk down the street. You'll see overlays of the data. If you walk past a restaurant, you'll see a menu pop down in your glass of stuff that's live and inside that restaurant right now. And that's the kind of interface breakthrough that I think is happening kind of in the works right now that we're going to see really have a huge impact over the next 5 years. The third layer of every location service is the transaction. And actually, that's the fourth layer. The fourth layer is transaction. Transaction is basically how you transact. And a really neat thing that we see right now is Square. We really like Square as a huge bet in transactions. It just lets you pay without it just makes payment easy and lets you just kind of go there. Other kinds of stuff we see for transactions, obviously the codes and then QRs. This kind of stuff is going to reduce the friction of transacting. And we're going to move towards a cashless society, no credit cards, no swiping, and no cash. And then that brings us to the fifth layer and final layer of location, which is delivery. How do we consume? How do we actually consume the stuff, the physical products and the services that are delivered to us? And that's what we've already purchased, what we've indicated we want in the transaction. How are we going to get it? And how many of you have ever heard of the last mile problem? Okay, last mile problem states that a huge percent of the cost in getting you something physical is basically getting it to within 1 mile of you. I'm sorry, getting it from you to 1 mile from you. And it's cheap to get something pretty close to you, but getting to that last mile is what takes up the majority of the cost. So getting cable to your house, we can get cable or internet pretty close to you, but then to get it to your house from a hub, that's really expensive. And so when we think about delivery, the actual physical delivery of a good, that is kind of what is, it's kind of cheap to get it close to you, but it's hard to get it to your doorstep. And Amazon has a really neat solution to the last mile problem, which is make you walk the last mile. And that's what Amazon lockers are. Amazon lockers let you basically order something from Amazon, have it delivered to a locker that's close to your house, then you go pick it up. And so the way that they eliminate that huge delivery cost is by making you walk that last mile. So that's an innovation we see in delivery that, that could be transformational. Second is obviously same-day delivery. Remember Cosmo.com? We've seen this before. We've all seen this before. This is nothing new. But we are every local commerce experience has got delivery as a potential as a potential layer to actually consume what you got. And so those are the 5 layers of local commerce. We have data, algorithm, interface, transaction, and delivery. And the bets that we see are all happening in one of those layers. For example, Google Maps, maybe the biggest bet or investment that's happening in local location-based services today. You guys know how many people work on Google Maps? 7,500 people work on Google Maps. That's, I mean, all the users, but at Google, that's a quarter of their workforce basically is on Maps. And they recently, this week, relaunched a new interface. And so their most recent bet was a bet on interface, which is that 3rd layer. And of course, they have all 5 layers, and they're continuously working on all 5. But most recently, their investment, their bet was in one of those layers. Now, it's not just the publishers that are making bets. Brands are too. In fact, TD Bank, it's a Canadian bank. Better than a Greek bank. Don't put your money in a Greek bank, by the way. Don't put your money. This TD Bank, they actually created videos of every location, and they put them on their Google Plus local profiles. So when you go to their Google Plus local listing, you don't just see a generic video for all of TD Bank. You see one of the particular location, the particular branch location that you might be thinking about going to. So brands are making a big bet in location. That's expensive to create location-specific content. That's expensive. But when you can deliver that at the exact moment of local intent, it drives the local discovery experience forwards. And that's the kind of investment that's having an impact on your life. And the third a third area where we see huge investment is in you. Every one of you, every time that you walk outside, you take a bet on location. Because if I know you correctly, you're not printing out your MapQuest directions beforehand and bringing it to figure out how you're going to get there. I used to do that. My dad still does. My grandma still uses the yellow pages. And so you take a bet because you bet that your smartphone is going to help you find where you need to go. You don't look it up beforehand. On my way over here, it's like, where is this place? I type in 125 West 18th Street. Boom, I waited until I got into the cab to tell them where to go. And so that's the bet that we all take every day on location, the investment that we make. And it's not just people today that bet on location. Think of the people in the past, the global explorers of before. This is the map. This is a Ptolemaic map from like the 2nd century. And this is the map that basically Columbus had to get into his ship and sail across the ocean. And this is all they had. First of all, like, how are you going to find the New World in this thing? Because it doesn't even exist. But think about the bet that every explorer ever made on location before they set off on their journey with the old effed up map that's completely going to kill them. They need dragons flying under the sea. This is probably why people were super, super religious too. Like, because you basically got in the map and you had the stars and you had to pray that you didn't do it. But this is the most accurate map in the world for like 3 to 5 centuries. 3 to 5 centuries. And this is all they had. So we all take a huge bet and have a huge investment in location every day and everything we do. But there's kind of an interesting thing. So while location is woven into the fabric of your life in ways that you may not realize from those 5 layers, location-centric innovations are all happening on one of those 5 layers. But it's the big stuff, the big, huge breakthroughs. It's the phones, the internet, the printing press. That's the kind of stuff that is revolutionary more than evolutionary. All the innovations we see today, they're more evolutionary, the work on location is evolutionary. But let's think about some of the big things that could potentially be revolutionary. Not just a better, and I love Google Maps, but a different colored pin on Google Maps, which they launched this week, is not a revolutionary breakthrough. That's an evolutionary breakthrough, if it's a breakthrough at all. It's an evolution. So let's think about what are the things that could really, really drive local discovery and commerce and location-based services for it. And one of those is, of course, big data. So as we get really good at knowing about you and what's around you, we can build better algorithms to decide what you might want to do. A second is just having perfect data. So imagine, I think of self-driving cars as fundamentally real-world crawlers. Google is basically crawling the web right now with their digital crawlers. I think of self-driving cars as physical crawlers. They're going to get perfect data on everything in the world. So if we have that, then we can drive the world forward. And then, of course, 3D printing, which could have a massive impact on delivery. And my favorite, the one thing I think Amazon needs to be careful of and watch out for right now is the teleporter. Because if we invent the teleporter, that same-day delivery, that next-day delivery, that's really just not very interesting anymore now, is it? And you're like, oh, we're never going to do that, ha-ha. Like, actually, think about what would happen if you were to take your iPhone and show it to one of those guys that was about to get on the map. Like, that had that old map that was about to get on a ship from the 15th century. They would think you were crazy. They would think you were from a different planet. I don't think that this kind of stuff is like 1,000 years away. I think this kind of stuff is possible. And it's going to have a huge impact on everything we do. 3D printing is right around the corner. And so this leads me to sort of an interesting conclusion. And if there's a takeaway here, it's that the big breakthroughs in location, the huge stuff, not the different colored pins on the map, but I mean the big stuff, the stuff that makes you get whatever you want right away. Those breakthroughs, ironically, are going to come from the people that are working on location today are not the ones that are going to be actually changing the future of location. It's going to come from people working on other kinds of stuff. And so, if we have to say what the future looks like and what it could mean for all of us, here's what I think the future of location looks like. I think we're going to see an open cloud of real-time location and product data that allows any service to connect to it and use its own proprietary algorithms that, based off of your prior purchase data and the present context, decide what you may want to buy and allow you to browse it in their own proprietary interface that lets you pick what you want and then transact without cash or without swiping a credit card to purchase it, and then have it delivered, if it's a service, at the time and place that you agreed upon, and if it's a physical product, have it immediately show up and have it show up at a price that you've agreed upon and via 3D printing or teleportation. So I'll say to the Yellow Pages, take that. And that's what we have for you today. Thank you.